Well, hello. I want to welcome you to another exciting episode of Pens in Use. This is a show where I look at the pens I'm using and inks and just tell you a little bit about them. So the pens I have in use this week from left to right. I have my Hero 718 inked up again by popular request. My Hero 601, Columbus 65, Noodler's Boston Safety Pen, a Sheaffer 330, a Sheaffer Imperial 2 Deluxe, both these from the 70s, Sheaffer Taranis, which is the Ferrari Scuderia Special Edition, and a Platinum President. So if you enjoy videos about fountain pens, both vintage and new, along with reviews and overviews like this, please feel free to subscribe below. If you'd like to react to anything you see in this video today, please comment below. I'd love to hear from you. So last week a few people were rather put out that the Hero 718 ran out of ink before I got to pens in use. Well, I used it and ran it empty before I got to this. So I've inked it up again special for you this week. I'm not ready to review it. I always like to go through 2 full fills. Plus, I just want the time to own it, so that newness and that excitement wears off and you have time to get a more balanced opinion, shall we say. So, let's get into it. We'll start with the Hero 718. As always, I'll be recording this in my Bomo art journal. I have a 3-day weekend coming up this weekend, so I will be finally recording my review of this notebook this weekend. I don't know when it'll be uploaded yet, but... So we'll start with the Hero 718. I am told this is rather like a Montblanc 912. Little Apache sunset from filling another pen today. Anyway, this is... I've never owned a Montblanc 1912, so I can't comment. Leo of the Inquisitive Quill did a very nice review of this pen. I'll get to one eventually. So you look at this, no nib. Nib. Well, not that the nib is amazing. It's a 10K nib, which is new to me. I am fairly impressed with it, though, I have to say. So far all I've written is the date, but you can definitely see some line variation. The ink I have in this pen is a Pelikan 4001 Violet. And it's still not dry yet, so very wet writer, very... of course, it's an attractive ink. Just give you a quick close-up of the writing sample here. Maybe. There we go. So I would argue that there's definitely line variation. And when I do the review, I'll get more into that. But you can see that some of that's still wet. So all in all, I'm quite impressed. Very heavy pen, but nice. We'll share the spotlight with its much cheaper brother, the Hero 601. This is, I'm not sure, I guess it's a Parker 51 knockoff, kind of. With an ink window, which is awesome. I like that it's a button filler, but it's a much nicer than the button fillers on the Parkers ever were, because it's not vacuumatic. This is a much simpler mechanism with a little button fill piston up here, spring loaded, and then there's a breather tube down here, and it just, I'll have to, when I review it, I'll do a nice diagram. I wish it was a demonstrator because I like that filling mechanism. So this is a Hero 601. The ink in it is not a name I can remember. Birmingham pens. Ham. Conservatory. Verbana. I went to college 60 miles north of Pittsburgh, and honestly, a lot of the places that have been mentioned with these ink names, because they're all places in Pittsburgh, don't ring a bell to me, but I never got into Pittsburgh that often. My next pen, actually, I got in a trade. I had been looking for an Aurora 88, and the company I had finally found one through, the vintage one, not the modern one, sent it off, and it got swooshed in the mail, and I was very depressed about that. So while I was casting about trying to find another one, I ended up doing a trade for this pen, which is a Columbus 65. Now this is rather a look-alike to the Aurora 88. Not the same. Piston filler, a lot lighter. It's not as heavy a pen. Ink window is quite similar. Semi-hooded nib, just like the the vintage Aurora 88. Very flexible nib, very impressive. As far as I know, they don't make pens nearly as nice as this anymore. This is an ink I don't use nearly enough. A very attractive green. I bought it back when it looked like there would be no more Sailor Epinard. And this was a possible replacement, but I like it in its own right. Next pen is Noodler's Boston Safety Pen. It's on its second fill. This is another one where I could legitimately review it, but I'm not going to because I haven't owned it long enough. Yes, I've run through a lot of ink in it, but that honeymoon period is still on. Of course, safety pen, always uncap upright. I won't demonstrate why. I made enough of a mess last week with just a regular piston filler, let alone a safety pen. So Noodler's Manjiro Nakahama is a sort of a Japanese-themed ink in some ways. It's also known as Whaleman Sepia, and I can't remember how it goes anymore, but I know that one of the things you can do to it will turn it red, like that sun in the Japanese flag. Another thing you can do with it is apparently you can get a purple out of it, but I've never succeeded. It's also known as Whaleman Sepia. I guess it's meant to look like the inks that were used in the old whaling logs and the whaling ships, where they'd they'd use like squid ink and other such materials. I don't have a reference on that handy, so unless I find it, I probably won't put it below either. It might actually be on the bottle for all I remember. Okay. Next pen is one of those slim black pens I like. It's from the 70s, not a high-end pen. It's one of my reviews I'll be filming either this weekend or next. It's a 1970s pen. It's a Sheaffer, a Sheaffer 330. It has that nice diamond-shaped nib. And you can tell, with the finish, it's not an amazing pen. The Sheaffer 330. It's a fine point. As somebody mentioned, I forgot to note that last week. And the ink in it is Birmingham pens. Let's see, Allegheny River Twilight. And I think I mentioned last week that I graduated from a high school that was on the shores of the Allegheny River. Up where it's still quite small. Even taught there for a very brief while. This next pen I have inked up is a Sheaffer. I have to get the name right here. Sheaffer Imperial 2 Deluxe. Another slim black pen I like. Different level from that Sheaffer 330. Has what they call a Triumph nib, which is rather attractive. I have a snorkel filler with one of these, which I need to review one of these days. Before I write with it, I just want to point out here on the side. Alright, so I got some new lighting. I'm experimenting with an LED spotlight hung from the rafters. I couldn't hang it exactly where I wanted because the duct for my furnace to heat the upstairs runs right over my head. But trying to make the writing samples and the pens a little bit better lit. So this is a little hole. This is what they call a touchdown filler. Now, since this is full of ink, I'm not going to demonstrate with this one. This here unscrews. So I'm going to pull out an old Sheaffer. I'm not sure what model this is. This one has definitely seen the wars. It needs a lot of TLC and repair. So if that helps. This one does not write, does not have a sack. But it serves to demonstrate, even though this is very sticky. So what a touchdown filler is, you unscrew here, you pull this out, and this is very tight on this pen. I don't know why. One of those things I'll need to investigate one of these days. It might even be bent. But anyway, that hole there is eventually going to let in air. So what I do is I push this down. And while I'm pushing it down, what it's doing is pushing air out, it's pushing air in around this bladder, which compresses the bladder, kind of squeezes it like this. And then if, the pen was working right, you'd hear it right about there when the air gets back in, and the bladder can go whoop, and then that causes it to inhale the ink. So I don't know if I'll ever get this particular pen writing again. I may just save it as a parts pen for the future because that's somebody else's tooth marks and that really sticky piston and I don't know. So Sheaffer Imperial 2 Deluxe. It also is a fine point, and the ink in it is Herbin, Bleu, Myosotis, which is a forget-me-not flower. And I don't know, I suppose the color is reasonably close. But nice pen. I'm very pleased with it. I got it. I wrote with it quite a lot, and then I set it aside. And right now, I really couldn't tell you why, because I've been enjoying it since I inked it up. And of course, a more modern Sheaffer Taranis. I have learned since that last week that this Scuderia here, Scuderia Ferrari. I knew Ferrari was like a fancy racy car type thing. I guess the Scuderia is their performance car division. But anyway, I like this pen. It's one of only two really brightly colored inks this week. So Sheaffer Taranis, the word Taranis and the word Sheaffer do not appear on the pen anywhere because it's a special edition. I was fortunate enough to get it at the price of a regular Taranis because it's actually quite a bit more expensive. I also got a Ferrari keychain if you're into that kind of thing. And this ink is another one of those complicated Birmingham ink things. So Birmingham, Duquesne, scroll up a little here. Birmingham, Duquesne, Incline Station Red. pen is a nice writer. I love the bright, I like my slim black pens, but I just like how striking and bright red this is. That's what made me buy it. Because I'd looked at other Sheaffer Taranis and never pulled the trigger. My last pen this week is one that was funded by this channel. I was surprised my channel's actually large enough that I wasn't hit by the where YouTube is shutting off advertising for its small channels. So I am zooming in on 1,500 subscribers. So thank you. That's I don't really watch those numbers that closely, so that's kind of cool to realize that. So thank you. I'm not going to get rich off doing this, but it is fun to interact and once in a while use the channel to fund a fun toy like this. Or a piece of equipment like the tripod holding up the camera that's filming this. And maybe you could argue that that's why I have this extra light, but I think I got to work a little on its placement because the shadows aren't quite how I want, but I think it's making the pen show up better. So, Platinum President. I was going to be creative and do a different ink in it this time than one I've done before, but I really liked this. This is a broad with the cursive italic grind on it from Dan at nibsmith.com. And the ink is Noodler's Apache Sunset. Which is a nice shading orange. On this particular paper, you won't see the shading quite as well, just because it's a more absorbent paper than others. But still, you can definitely see the shading. Since someone asked, this will come up when I finally review the notebook. Yes, this paper feathers more than others. This is no Tomoe River paper. At the same time, when you look through this writing sample, and when you start paging through this notebook, not a lot of feathering. It actually does a pretty good job. And yes, there's show through, but for the most part, no bleed through. Once in a while, you'll get an ink. But, and of course, there's last week's disaster, which I never did look. Oh, no, I didn't bleed through at all, so that's pretty impressive for the amount of ink I laid down. So tomorrow is Saturday. I will spend, well, I will be spending my whole day at school. I have to get there really early. I will be proctoring the ACT in the morning. At the same time, we are hosting the regional wrestling. So after I'm done proctoring the ACT and I get all of that packaged up, then I will spend my afternoon at the wrestling meet taking pictures for the local paper and for the yearbook. And then I'll finally come home exhausted. So I'm not sure yet if I'll be in the mood to film it or if I will wait until Sunday to film it. I may just want to come home and crash at that point. I'll just put that out there. But I have been getting some questions that I would like to put together a video that I will answer. And since I do have Monday off from work, that seemed like a good day to use to film a video answering those questions. So look for a Q&A video that may appear Sunday. It may not appear till Monday. Just an extra video outside my normal series. And of course, I'll be filming pen reviews. But now, the more I think about it, yeah, after a full day at school, I am not going to feel like filming a video and talking fountain pens. I just will want to crash and do something brainless for a little while. So kids wrestling all day may feel the same way, or the ones taking the ACT. I remember how we didn't do the ACT in Pennsylvania. We did the SAT, and I know I didn't feel like doing anything after that. So yeah, we may all be crashing here. But anyway, I hope this was interesting. If videos like this where I talk about fountain pens, both new and vintage, and inks and paper interest you, please feel free to subscribe below. If anything I said in this video strikes your fancy, please feel free to comment on it. And hey, if you have a question, please feel free to put it below. It may make it into that Q&A video. It may have to wait till the next time I feel like doing one, but I will do my best. I may even answer it in the comments. Who knows? So anyway, I thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.